Strong guy. So first, I want to talk about a little bit why a payment company is telling you about how to do business in Brazil. I was living in Brazil last year for about 13 months, and I was working for InnoGames, which is a large online game publisher. And that's why I got like really good experience in the market. I was responsible to set up the office in Brazil and to hire local people, to find local marketing channels, and to improve the business. And I joined MoPay in February this year, so that's why I'm now at MoPay doing business development there for Europe and Latin America. But I want to basically talk about my experience in Brazil while I was at InnoGames, because that's the most interesting part here, hopefully. First of all, like who does business already in Brazil of you? Anyone? You? That's it. Who wants to do business in Brazil? You want to do business? You want to do business? And who is here to? Of course, there's no other talk to listen to. What about you guys in the back?
You.
Huh?
You thank you.
Oh, okay. And I want to talk about three main topics. So one topic is how big is the Brazilian market for online games? To measure to get like an audience. Like Brazil is huge, 200 million people live there, but how big is the actual online gaming market? How many people have access to online gaming, and how many people can pay? And the second one is like how to target your audience. Probably there are mobile games, there are casual games, there are hardcore games, there are client games. There are many different types of games. So how do you target your audience for your particular product? And the third part is, since I'm now as a payment company, I also want to talk a little bit about challenges regarding payment and taxes in Brazil, since they are, let's say they are like one of the big challenges you face. They have a really advanced tax system. They have some exotic payment methods which you need to know, and also, of course, a little bit about mobile payment. Okay, that's The Economist, which is a very popular and well-known magazine about economies worldwide, and that's the headline from November 2009, where they say like Brazil is taking off, and they were quite right about that. I will show you a statistic later. However, almost 4 years later, the title looked like this, and that's really interesting because like in 2009, like many people started moving to Brazil, investing to Brazil, like many different industries, not only online gaming, and based on the report from The Economist, they said like, okay, Brazil, as like there's India, there's Russia, and there's Brazil, but Brazil is the country which is growing really, really rapidly, and 4 years later they had to revise their article saying like, well, probably not so much as we expected. And if you look at this statistic, if you look at here, like 2007 was a good year, 2004 was a good year, 2009 was not really a good one, but 2010 was really nice development. So remember, the article from Economist was in November 2009, and 2010 was a successful year for Brazil. However, the reason was not that out of nothing Brazil started to do proper business. That was not the case. The case was that at the end of 2010 was the election of the new president. So what happened here is there was like tax breaks, the salary increase for people working in a public sector. They did a lot of tax benefits on different aspects in a society. So the people got like a lot of money out of nothing, and they didn't know how to deal with it. And the government said, education is really important. Educate your people, educate your children, send them to university, and use the money for this. Utilize your tax breaks to invest in the future of your kids. That was what the government said. What happened is, the Brazilians started buying televisions, dishwasher, washing machines, and they spent a lot of, in items they couldn't afford before, which for us are items like on a regular basis, but for them it's like a really, really challenge to buy them. And that's why if you take a closer look at the statistics, you see that the import went up a lot. So the Brazilians started importing a lot of stuff. But the export was about the same level as the years before. And since the government put like a lot of money in there, what happened is inflation started. Inflation started, so that the reais was less worse than the year before, but the people didn't see the increase in their salary. So they couldn't invest any more money to buy items, and that's all the reasoning in here in that chart. And that's why the economy went down after 2010. And then like everyone was like, okay, what's going on? Brazil was like really taking off, but ever since then the economy started shrinking because the inflation got so high, and it was really hard for them to obtain a credit at the bank, as the market was like really unsecure. That's so far like to get like to get an overview about how it came that everyone was like talking about Brazil, that everyone was talking about, oh, Brazil is the next big thing, that's a big hype. It was based on the statistics, which were partly true, but if you take a closer look, you notice that it was basically the government was burning money, and the president was burning money because she wants to get re-elected in October, and that's why they spend so much money in the public sector. But now back to the online gaming business. Come on in, guys, so you don't need to stay outside. And so how to measure your market share for doing online gaming? That's the first topic I wanna observe with you guys. And that's a statistic from Comscore, which says one single website is occupying 24% of the whole online gaming market. Comscore is, it's a statistic company like Nielsen. They're not as famous as Nielsen, but they are pretty. They have pretty funded data, and the problem here is that 24% is like it's a lot, and it's one single website, Click Jogos, which belongs to the UOL media group, which is the second largest media group in Brazil, and Click Jogos, however, is about casual gaming. So the games you find in Click Jogos are games where the people click and they actually don't know what they do there. They click in a pop-up and there's a nice sound popping up like, ooh, okay, next level, but there's no real deep in-game gameplay. And if you compare the Comscore top 10 list with the top 10 list in Germany, France, Poland, wherever in Europe, you will notice that there's a lot of standalone games showing up. In Comscore you can select the category, like category online gaming, category entertainment and stuff like that. And if you select the category online gaming, you see a lot of standalone games in the top 10. In Brazil, there's one single game in the top 10, that's League of Legends, that's it. All the other ones are like casual gaming websites, casual gaming portals, stuff like that. So that already tells a lot about the market. So it's obviously a casual gaming market. Meaning casual games, I understand casual games, they probably have monetization inside the game, but the gameplay is really limited, and it's not designed to have like a long engagement to the player. So people play it probably only for one session, maybe 2 sessions or 3 sessions, but then they're done with the game. That's what I understand about casual gaming. So now, easy approach could be, okay, put your game on Click Jogos and you're done. We can do that, many publishers do that, and they see massive traffic coming from them as they have a huge volume. But then they notice very soon, this traffic doesn't monetize at all. There's no money coming from this traffic. And why is this? That's a Rolex, obviously. And I met the guy in Sao Paulo, and he's selling luxury watches online to people in Brazil. Okay, and I was like, okay, so how do you do that? Like, yeah, you know what, I have my website and I do like really specific marketing in certain areas. So then, okay, tell me more about it. I'm like, okay. And what he does is, he has specific regions inside a city, inside Sao Paulo, where he advertises his website that people buy the watches. And I was thinking like, wow, so he has like a really limited amount of customers, but that's his right target. And then I was thinking, okay, probably it's not the problem that the traffic doesn't monetize. The problem is that we're having just the wrong audience in our games. We have a lot of volume coming from Click Jogos and all the other casual gaming portals, but they don't spend money, as I said. So the problem wasn't it's okay. I think I can use the mouse. I think it's fine, but just leave it as is. And So I was thinking probably the issue here is we got the volume, but it's the wrong volume. So let's target more specific users, and that's what we did. And how did we measure that? That's like there are two maps. The one on the left is like the GDP per capita, and the one on the right is the GDP share per state. And what you see here, the dark color is like the GDP per capita. It's really strong here. The Amazonas is also quite strong GDP per capita, but nobody lives there. So that's why it's dark blue, but there lives nobody. That's jungle. And if you look at this map, that's the GDP share per state on the total GDP of the whole country. So what you see is that all this area here, the green area, the light green area, there's no money where people can spend. There's Bahia here in the northeast, which is a huge state, but they have a low GDP per capita. So their share on the state is reasonably, but the GDP per capita is low. So what we did in the next step is we said, let's focus our marketing activities to those states which have a high share on the total GDP, which has a high GDP per capita. Because the theory here was like the people who can afford a watch are not the 200 million people who live in Brazil. It's probably like 1 million people can afford like a Rolex, I don't know. And I thought the same, probably it doesn't make sense to target whole Brazil. Maybe it makes sense to narrow down your activities in one specific region of Brazil, and one specific city, and one specific state. So we started off with the Sao Paulo state, which is the red one here, which is quite impressive. Like 1/3 of the whole economy happens in one state, basically in one city, Sao Paulo. So that's where you have to be. That's where the business is. That's where the people have money to spend. And we are living in Europe here. We are all wealthy. That's get easily a job, or easier job than the people in Brazil. And if you're short on money, the first thing you cut off is your spendings on entertainment. When you're talking about like getting like food for kids, you always buy them food, but you would never spend money for a game when you cannot buy food for kids. And that's a theory here behind, and that's why we said, okay, let's say the volume is now 200 million people potentially we can reach. It's much less than this. So if you take those states, they're like half of the population, like the dark blue ones. They are 100 million. And then I said, okay, 100 million. That's now my population for Brazil, and let's see how many people we can reach within the 100 million people. Oops. Right click. So when we talk about games or publishing games in Brazil, those are the common issues which many publishers say. Oh, we have massive traffic. As I said, from ClickJoggers, we have a lot of traffic, but the ARPU is like crazy low. So, and third one is something everyone who publishes a game should know when the people drop out of the game. If you take a close look at your Brazilian audience, you might see that they drop in the first 2 minutes of the game. So those three issues are the most common issues. However, I put them in a different order. First, understand why the hell do people drop in the first 2 or 3 minutes. Then, analyze if the massive traffic you get is the right traffic you get. Third, take care of the low ARPU. However, probably if you take care of number 1 and number 2, you see an increase in the ARPU, and that was the idea behind that, saying like, okay, less volume, higher ARPU, and that's how we grow the revenues, since we have less spending in marketing. That's a real picture. The quality sucks a little bit. I was behind a mirror window, and I invited 60 people to play our game. And I showed them also advertisement materials. So what I did in the first place is I showed them a banner, which we used in the Brazilian market. And then I let them down, noting down like, what do you expect from this game when you see this banner? And what they said is, I don't know, it's something about building up a game, and I don't know, conquer someone. But you know, the banner looks quite casual, so I don't have many expectations, just like clicking and something happens. That's what most of the people said. I was like, okay. And then they started playing the game, and it was Forge of Empires, which is about that you build up a village and that you develop your city through different centuries. Like you start in the Middle Ages and then you go up to the future, so to say. And the tutorial is about 4 to 5 minutes. However, the people in Brazil dropped after 2 minutes. So they dropped within the tutorial. I was like, that is really, that's really strange. Because when you sign up for a game, you have to choose a nickname, you have to enter your email address, you have to confirm your email address, and there's some effort when you sign up for servers. And if you look at European numbers or in the US, when people put some effort to sign up, they at least invest some time to get to know more about the product. However, in Brazil it's a different case. People jump from one service to the other, and signing up for them doesn't mean anything for them. I asked them, like, okay, do you mind sharing now your email address with us? They're like, no. Well, I sign up for services like on a daily basis, like for 10 services a day, doesn't matter. I don't even know which services I'm using. So they don't care to sign up for a game. That's not a big deal for them. And then they were inside the game, and the tutorial started, and big arrows showed them like, hey, click here, click this button, the button was flashing. So everything was super easy to understand until step 3. Step 3 was like, open the building menu and build the house. However, the building menu button was only flashing. There was no arrow showing them click here. And then most of the people stopped playing. And I was behind the mirror, and I was like, oh my god, what's going on? Is internet down, or what happens? And then they were sitting there, like, I don't know what to do. That's what I could read from their faces. And I was like, that can't be the case. And I went into the room and I asked the people, like, so what's going on? Like, why don't you continue playing? And one said, like, oh, I don't know, I think the game crashed. The other one said, like, oh, I think I'm done with the tutorial. I was like, no, it's not done. And yet, like, they came up with so many different reasons, and I was like, oh my god, this is like incredible. So you have to teach the players, especially as it looks like, obviously, you have to teach the players through your game, because they are used to play casual games, meaning like clicking, that another button is flashing, click here, so that they don't read any text. They won't never read any text. They want to get guided through the game. And I was like, okay, now it's pretty clear why they drop in the first 2 minutes, because they don't understand how to continue the game. And now think about it. If you want to send those people to like a payment process that they get to a paying user, that's going to be a pain in the ass, because they have to open the store, then they have to understand what a package deal means, like what means 10,000 coins for them. They don't know. They cannot combine those things. And then using the payment method is also a complex process for everyone. But if they drop out the tutorial, they're already gone. So there's no way to monetize those users. They're gone forever. They will never return. As signing up for a game doesn't mean anything for them. If you send them newsletters, they get 500 newsletters a day. They don't see your newsletter. So if you lose them in the first 2 minutes, they're gone forever. So what you have to consider here is, what is in your target audience, what is the motivation of your players to sign up for the game? In our game, Forge of Empires, it's a long-term game. So you want players who are able to invest time, who are able to understand complex gameplay, because not only about clicking something happens, you have to come up with a strategy. And then you have to invest time to see how can you advertise your target audience, how can you hire the chance that they will stay in your game. And really important is analyze their behavior in the first 2-3 minutes to see where they drop exactly. It can be as simple as I said, it can be that like a big arrow is missing, but the button is still flashing. That probably can be too much, can be a reason that they drop off. And that's what you need to analyze in the really, really beginning of the game. So now there are two options which you might have. One is adjust the game to your target audience. Second option is adjust your marketing campaigns to your game complexity. So tell them more about your game. Obviously, the first option isn't an option for a game developer because you cannot, nobody does it, and it's a lot of effort to localize the gameplay to your target country. You have to have a different update structure when you commit new updates and stuff like that. So number one isn't really an option. You can make it look different, okay? Like when you go to China, make it look Chinese, that's fine. Exchange new graphics. But if you touch the gameplay for each specific country, your developers will hate you and that will never work out. So, second option sounds more reasonable. Adjust your marketing campaign to your game complexity. And that's what we did. And actually, for some reason the video doesn't work in PowerPoint, so I have to exit here.
Você conhece Forja Empires? Meu, olha só esse gráfico, que maneiro, velho. E o mais legal é que você não precisa baixar nada. Foi eleito o melhor jogo de estratégia online de 2013 com milhões de usuários registrados só no Brasil. Construa sua ideia usando novas tecnologias através do tempo, faça alianças e derrote inimigos. Acessando band.com.br/jogos agora, você ganha um item especial para te dar um empurrãozinho. E assim você já sai na frente daquele seu amigo meio vacilão, tá ligado?
Okay, probably you didn't understand anything because you don't speak Portuguese, but let me explain you. That guy is a famous comedian in Brazil, and what you see in TV spots in Europe usually is an animated trailer, like a gameplay trailer, which looks nice, and explains a bit about the game, but actually is more or less a big teaser that people sign up for the game, because as I said, making people to sign up for the game in Europe is much harder than in Brazil. So you need to tease the people in Europe so much more than you would need to tease them in Brazil just for signing up. So that guy, when he was sitting on a computer, was only explaining what is the game about. The game is not a casual game. The game is something where you have to invest time. The game is something where you need to understand some connections between what you do in there, and the whole spot 30 seconds was only about this. So that's like, if you do that in Germany, everyone in marketing would say that's a freaking conversion killer, because you don't tease them to sign up for your game. However, in Brazil, our goal was to narrow down our audience, not making like 1 million people to sign up, because it's easy to tease them in Brazil. If you make it look nice, a trailer like, that's the best game, 100 million people are playing it, everyone would sign up. You don't need to say anything more. But if you tell the people actually what the game is about, people in Brazil would consider if they sign up, because they're like, oh, that's not a casual game. I'm more into clicking and not thinking about anything. I'm just more into clicking. And that TV spot, we were running it against a regular TV spot we run in Germany. We saw less signups, and as for the European one, but those players who came with that TV sports were performing 7 times better than the other ones, like comparing the IRPU. So what does it mean? That means, as I said in the beginning, that means make sure you target the right audience, make sure you tell your audience more about your product, make sure that they understand which target you want to, which audience you want to target. So yeah, that's basically a sum up. So why is massive traffic an issue? It will populate your server, but not with active users. They drop and then they're gone. And 99% of them will not monetize at all. Of course, you can say, and it makes sense to put your game on ClickJogos, because ClickJogos also has users which are willing to play like a more hardcore game than just clicking casual games. So it makes sense, you can put it on there, but don't expect that you see like a big monetization coming from those users. So what's needed here? Tell your campaign. And what we also did, besides the TV spot where we're explaining about the game. We also did spots in the radio. We would never do any radio spot in Germany or Poland because it's the connection between like sitting in an office listening to the radio, making a sign up for online game is too far away. And it's hard to track the results and everything. What we did in Brazil is we had about 20 radio campaigns. And the big advantage for radio campaigns is that you can target your audience very precisely. Let's say you work with a radio station which only operates in Sao Paulo, you work with a radio station which only operates in Rio de Janeiro, that's your target. And then you measure in a good time frame, like let's say from 11 to 2 p.m. and from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. That's where people at work sitting in the office and probably they are bored and they want to experience some games. And that's what we did. And again, in the radio spot, we were explaining more about the gameplay, what the game is about, more than teasing the player to sign up for the service. And we sent the player to the radio station because they engage with the radio station. So we sent them to their website and told them like, you will find the game on autentinovi.com.br, click on it and sign up for it. That's what we told them. The two advantages. First is they probably already know the website because they listen to the radio on a daily basis. Second one is they are more engaged with the brand than with us because they probably heard the first time about the game, but they know the radio station Autentinovi. And that also brought us really, really good results in terms of the ARPU, which was so much more higher than users coming from Google advertisement or any other online media. Yeah, so what marketing channels to use? That's a guy in the office, and he probably listens to radio on a daily basis, and that's, well, probably not he in particular, but that's your target. They have a job. They listen to a radio, and they are willing to spend money since they have the jobs. They live in Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro. That's where the money is. You won't believe how much more expensive Sao Paulo is than any other city here in Poland, any other city in Germany. It's so much more expensive, and that's where the money sits. And think about the guy who is selling the Rolex watches. His target is exactly the same as yours because we're talking about luxury goods. Playing an online game and spending money in an online game, that's luxury. That's not something you need to do. That's not, it's not like food or drinks. That's luxury, and that must be your target. And besides them, I was talking a lot about TV and radio, which really works well. But obviously you cannot miss out the online channels. So get your game on the portals. There's R7, Bond. They are quite large portals in Brazil. Get them on the portals. They also have a good audience, and the most important thing, it's all kind of connected because like the Band portal is connected to many TV stations. Band is operating like 5 TV stations per year, so it's all connected within your target group. And make sure you have a good mix between online and TV, as people probably see a banner online, then watching the TV spot on TV, and then they remember and sign up for the game. So you have to have a healthy mix about among all the channels. Yeah. So the next problem though is what's your budget? What's your expectation? The problem here is with TV stations, with radio stations, the media price is quite expensive as you need to buy a whole package. It doesn't make sense to run a TV spot like once a month or so, and you have to run them continuously, and that means you need quite a big budget. Be prepared that the media price for TV stations is as high as we have it in Europe. And the next challenge, which I didn't put in the slide because it's a big challenge and it's making people hesitating to invest in Brazil, but once you deal with it once, it's fine. It's called Ancine. Ancine is like an authority in Brazil which needs to approve your video material. If you publish a video on TV, online on a YouTube channel, or somewhere else on the portal, you need to register this material, which is kind of hard to do when you when we talk about a company based in Germany or Poland. However, the agency in Brazil are taking care of this, and there are costs attached to it. But as I said, if you do it once, you're familiar with the process, and then it's easy to replicate it for future productions. And the second one is, as I said at the beginning, easy approach would be put your game on ClickJoker, you get massive volume, everyone is happy. Don't get fooled by those casual gaming websites and by the results, because they don't reflect the market potential. It's just ClickJoker has a massive volume, no doubt about that, but it's not your target unless you do casual games, like really casual games, but those casual games which don't monetize, they don't have any monetization inside the game. Yeah, last but not least, payment taxes. There's you have to be careful when you select your payment provider. I'm not talking about mobile payment, I'm talking about credit cards and cash payments. There's a payment option called Boleto. It's you print like a voucher, you go to a point of sale, to a bank, you deposit the money, or you do it online with your online banking, and then you get your credits in the game. It takes like, depending when the player goes to the bank, but it takes like 24 hours, sometimes 2 days to process. However, there are local credit cards in the market. I don't know if something exists here in Poland. And Germany, we don't have it for sure. If you have a Visa or MasterCard in Germany, you can use it worldwide. If you have a Visa or MasterCard in Brazil, it's split it into local use, domestic use, and international use. And most of the cards which are activated are only activated for domestic use. The reason is that the Brazilian market is a comparatively quite a closed market. So the government wants that the people spend their money inside the country. Whenever they spend money with their credit card outside the country, they pay for each single transaction 6.38% taxes. So they really want to protect their domestic market. And for those credit cards, you have to make sure that you have the right payment provider, because fraud is an issue, as everyone has heard, but many payment providers do manual checks, so they call the customer to verify the credit card details. That's a lot of work for the payment provider, which is fine for you because they have to hire the people. However, the players are waiting the coins, and the player want to have immediately the coins. And there are a lot of known companies who process credit cards like this, so make sure you choose the right one who processes the transactions in real time. Otherwise the players get pissed and he makes a payment once, and then it takes like maybe a day for processing the credit card transaction, and then he will never return because it's too annoying waiting for the credits for 1 day. Second one, that's one reason why mobile payment is extremely important, because it's processed in real time. And people in Brazil are really used to use their cell phones. They have it always with them. Prepaid penetration is really high there, but that's not a problem. So it's really important to have mobile payment, because the player wants their coins immediately once they hit the pay button. Third one, don't think about trying to set up a legal entity in Brazil. Taxes are incredibly high. There are some I would call them loopholes in the law, which makes it a lot more attractive to operate the games from outside of Brazil. So make sure that the end customer has the contract with your entity outside of Brazil. That gives you much more benefits than having a legal entity in Brazil. So yeah, if you're not afraid of going to Brazil after this talk, go for it. It's a really attractive attractive market, as long as you know that you will face really certain challenges, which you wouldn't face in any other market. So that's my contact details behind. So if you want, you can take a picture. And I think we are running out of time since the guy over there.
We've got the time for the questions.
Yeah, so time for the questions and then time for lunch, if there are any.
So you are with MoPay,
Yeah.
and do you provide payment solutions in Brazil? For
Yeah,
Brazilians?
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
And for example, with credit cards, do you process them
Sorry.
immediately? Credit cards transactions immediately? Do you process them in real time?
Yes,
Yes?
like 99% yes.
But how do you deal with fraud, with
Well, they're like
chargebacks and so on?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like, there are like many fraud checks behind it, and the point here is, I talked to since I was living there, I had all the close contact to the payment provider there, and also to those who were dealing with the credit card processing in 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever. And I talked to them and asked them like, so how many fraud do you actually get when you call a customer, ask them to verify the credit card details? So how many of them say, this is not my card, it has been abused? I asked them, like, they're like, oh Tim, you know what, happens really, really rarely. It's like, why did you do this? Oh, that's a regulation from the mother company. So it's not, I mean, fraud, credit card fraud is always an issue when you talk about Poland, Germany, any country. But fraud is not higher in Brazil than in the other countries. That's the important thing here. And in any other country, credit card transactions are processed in real time. Of course, you will face chargebacks, but they won't be higher than, won't be less than 1%. Will be less than 1%, sorry. Yeah.
Between, about
Ladies first.
sources of traffic, between TV, radio, and online, what would you say is the best balance that you found so far?
Let's say like radio stations are limited because they're not like 500 radio stations per year. Plus radio stations up in the north in Amazonas doesn't help you either. So radio is a good start to make a proof of concept of what I said. Targeting your people in Sao Paulo, make a radio campaign, explain about your game, and then you see that your ARPU is incredibly high. And I'm still talking about like when you run a campaign of 2 weeks on the radio, you still get like a decent volume, like 20, 30,000 users. It's not that you get like a few hundreds or so.
20, 30,000 per day from the campaign?
Like for a 2 weeks campaign.
Okay.
But like high potential users, that's the point here. So it would generate a lot more money with those 20,000 users than with the 500,000 users you get from click-joggers in that 2 weeks. And that's my point here. However, radio stations are limited. And plus, they have a limited reach, so TV has a larger reach. And I would also recommend to go to the pay TV channels, because that's already where the people pay money for entertainment. They pay money to get pay TV. There are a lot of open TV channels that perform a lot worse than pay TV channels.
My question, at the beginning you said that compared to Poland or Germany, standalone games are basically non-existent in the Brazilian market. Why is that?
I wouldn't say non-existing, but the thing is, like I was saying that like casual gaming, the biggest casual gaming website, which is click-joggers, has 25% or 24% of the whole online gaming traffic in Brazil. But you have to think about like really large numbers. We're talking about like 200 million people in Brazil. Standalone game exists. League of Legends is really successful in Brazil. My point here was more that you have to see that you cannot consider, unless you are a casual game publisher, you cannot consider the 25% who are on click-joggers, which occupy the major part of the market, that they are your target. So you have to lower down the target expectations. The market is still huge. Does that answer your question, or?
Well, yeah, I just, because, well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's it? Okay. If not,
Yeah.
okay. More questions?
What's the typical range for CPU campaigns? What do you typically pay for a lead in Brazil?
Well, if you talk about like, let's say like traditional Google advertisement, stuff like that, that's what you mean?
Yeah, or for example, when you cooperate with portals which generate you.
Yeah, okay, that's actually a good question. I should have mentioned that. Two ways to cooperate with the portals. One is revenue share, which is really attractive, but then you can also expect that the audience probably is not that good. And the other one is like, which we had in Germany, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, that you pay on a CPM basis, which makes it really, really hard to measure beforehand if that campaign gonna work out or not. So you end up on those portals and those specific portals for the gaming, you end up like I need to convert it. It's like like €1.20 more or less. So if you do like Google advertisement, it's half. It's about the half. Yeah.
Per player.
Yeah, per player. For web games, probably it's different for area games because they do client games. Probably they pay a little more, but for web games it's like about like this. More questions?
Any other questions? Do you promote your games by Facebook in Brazil?
No, but Facebook is huge. Facebook is definitely huge. But then again, most of the games are really, really casual ones. But there's one example which, I have no numbers about it, but Candy Crush was like a super huge success. It was in the news. You were reading the newspaper and it was telling you about Candy Crush, or you went in a metro and it was showing the news about Candy Crush, how big Candy Crush is in Brazil. But it's like that's exactly like the type of game Brazilians want and most, like really, really casual ones. And that's why Facebook is huge. And if you look at the numbers of Facebook, I think Brazil is one of the countries where the people spend the most time on Facebook. I think it's the top 3 or so. So that's definitely huge potential to advertise your game. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much. If you have any questions to him, you can ask them after the lunch break or during the lunch break and so on.
No, I'm up to that.
Oh, we've got this break, yes, very important. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.